Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we are honored with great guest. Let's welcome her. She's a children author for a children book. Let's welcome Walt. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, sorry for the technical delay earlier. So tell
Oh,
us
that's
about yourself. What do you do normally?
well. Normally, I am a fourth grade school teacher.
Mhm,
I, I actually, my book that I'm wanting to promote is not a children's book, but it does have to do with children. It is a book about children.
mhm.
Um, I have written a children's book too, though.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And that. So, tell us a little bit about your, work book.
Well, the book that I wrote is called For the Children with Love, Sadie's Story.
Mhm,
And it is a book that I wrote because I was a social worker for a while. I worked at the Department of Child Services in Indiana, in Indianapolis, actually. And I was on the sex abuse team. And after leaving that job, I went back to teaching. I had taught before.
mhm,
And I've always wanted to write a book.
mhm,
And after dealing with some students and some issues and different things like that, the idea came to me to write a book that addresses the issue of child sex abuse, using some of my experience through DCS, the different cases and different things that I had seen there.
mhm.
And so the book basically is about a social worker. Her name is Delaney, and she is really sick and tired of people hurting children and decides she just might have to take things into her own hands.
Mm. Yeah, it's a, I think, very, very important topic, and especially, with the current situation. I don't know if you're following that. There's news about certain religious organizations, and unfortunately, those have, really, I don't know whether they were aware of or not, but, it is something which is so important for everybody to realize that, so let's talk a little bit about some of your chapters from your book, or some of which you like to share with us, actually.
Right. Um, I think one of the main things that I would like to share is that as I worked as a caseworker,
Mhm.
I realized that normal people, as we
Uh-huh.
call them, can't handle hearing details of child sex abuse. It's too much emotionally to hear. So when I wrote the book with that in mind, that people can't hear the details. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are afraid that
Mhm.
they're going to read this book and read something they can't handle, and that's not going to happen. I write in a way that you do know what happens, but you do not hear details or anything like that. So it saves the reader from that. The the book is written from the perspective of every person involved. So it starts out with Sadie, the little girl, and she's talking. It's done in her voice,
Mhm.
and the next chapter is Delaney, and she's talking. So every chapter is devoted to a certain character in the book. So you hear from the detectives, you hear from the perpetrator, the person that is hurting Sadie, you hear from the family. So it gives you the perspective of all the different characters when you read.
So what you're saying is that there are different characters in your book, and every character actually manifests or shows differently certain symptoms, or there's certain manifestation, or how it it changes them. So they're totally different. How so you might think there might not be one sign, right?
Right. And I think a lot of it and a lot of what I hear from readers is that they feel every emotion. And when I write, I truly sit with my eyes shut and just start typing, and I become that character. So when I'm writing for Sadie, I'm that little girl and I'm in her mind. And when I'm writing for the detective or whatever, I'm in their mind. I am that person when I'm writing, and you feel those emotions, and everyone has told me that I've spoken to has said, I went through every emotion I could possibly go through. I laughed, I cried, I got angry, I hate this person, I love this person. um, I get text messages in the middle of the night from people that say, "I read your book last night. I couldn't put it down. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and but I had to see if Sadie was okay. I had to know how it ended." Um, so it's a compliment that they do feel every emotion. I love that it brings that out in people.
Well, I mean, even hearing you actually makes me feel such kind of nervous about what happened to Sadie, and was Sadie okay in the end, and what really happened. I can't imagine how traumatic would be, for a kid uh,
Right.
to go through that. Let alone later on what happens. And so tell us, are these based on the real stories or?
No, these are made up. I did interview. I mean, I worked with hundreds of kids. So I know what their emotions are. I've talked to them, I've interviewed them, I've sat with them, I've cried with them, and the same with the parents. I've cried with parents and been there during the forensic interviews, and so I've had that experience. So I bring all of that experience into the book, but I am not writing about anybody that I've ever talked to necessarily, any details or anything. It is fiction. Um, so
Hmm.
but I do use my experience for that.
Basically, you are narrating it to bring attention and also pay attention for everybody, so in actual life, they should not miss those
Right.
important clues. So that's the aim of writing this book. So it's very important. It's more for educational purpose. So I
It
think.
is for educational purposes in that we really need people to start talking. People don't want to talk about child sex abuse. It's a topic that is very hush hush, and we get people talking. People are talking now when they're reading this book, and I've had people share their experiences with me and different things that have happened in their lives from reading this book. So we need to bring the topic to light that it does exist, and we need to talk about it, and we need to pay attention to our children, and we need to watch what's going on. It's proven that almost I can't remember the percentage, it's over 90%, I believe, of the time when a child is abused, it is by somebody that they know. It's not a stranger, it's somebody that they know. And so we need to listen to our children, and we need to watch for the signs. And so this book does educate in that way, but it is a story. It is Delaney's journey as a social worker who wants to protect these children. And I actually am getting ready to publish the second in the series. So there will be Nevaeh's story coming out very, very soon.
Mhm, mhm. And just for audience sake, I would like to just clarify that this is prevalent in all cultures, in all societies, unfortunately. And we can say it's certain religious organizations are more prone or not. But sadly, I'm of course also have observed other cultures. Unfortunately, it's very very prevalent there too. And I think important thing is a lot of people will never talk about it. So it's maybe they consider is kind of, oh, you put it under the carpet, because that first of all it's very hard to deal with them to
Yes.
understand that it is a it is a wrong thing, totally, it's a crime actually. So
Yes.
so they can go to jail, and also so kids are precious, and so that's important. Other thing is I like to also ask your, since you have done social work for so many years, so tell us, certain age groups are more prone to it or more vulnerable.
Honestly, it is any age group. It is any age group. Your elementary children, they're almost an easy target because they don't talk. They can be manipulated. They can be hushed and afraid to tell. And that's why we have body safety programs and things like that in the schools, is to help these children to have a voice and to talk. But when it's somebody that they love, they don't always understand that what is happening is wrong.
Mhm.
So it's important that we have these programs in our schools, but there is no age limit. Unfortunately, it happens at every age.
And what about any male versus female?
Um, I think you hear more about the female than you do the male. but I honestly, I don't know the numbers. I don't know that it's more or less, but I do know we hear more from the females than we do the males.
Mhm,
I think
mhm,
there's a stigma with the males. It's more of a shame somehow for them, um, and which is sad. We need to bring that out.
mhm. So tell us some of the important signs for parents to look for.
I think they need to listen. I think when your child says they don't want to sit with this person or they don't want to be around this person, that they need to ask why. They need to find out why. Um, and they also need to talk about your body and talk openly about it, using proper names for body parts, things like that. Parents need to be able to talk openly with their kids, and I think that's something that a lot of people are afraid of. We're afraid to do that with our children. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and I make sure that when we talk about things and we're talking about body parts, or when she goes to the restroom or whatever, and I ask her if she cleaned up well and things like that, I use the proper names.
Mm,
um, and I was always amazed when I was at DCS that the names that kids come up with, and it's what their parents have taught them to call their body parts. They and I think the other thing that surprised me the most when I was at DCS was the amount of parents that didn't believe their children. I
mm,
was I was floored over and over again that parents didn't believe their kids.
mm, mm. And so your book is available on Amazon, or is it available?
Yes,
Okay.
it's available. I publish through KDP,
Mm,
um, so it is available through there and through Amazon. And my next book will be available the same. And I would like to say that my daughter, Peyton, she's
mm.
23. She designed the cover for me. She drew the cover, and she's working on the cover for the next book. So,
Well, that's
um, so yes, I wanted to say that.
well, congratulations on such a
Thank
great
you.
achievement. But also for audience sake, like as you mentioned, make sure they talk to and find out why that they don't want to mix with the other person, or it mostly, unfortunately, is mostly it's the one or the one so that is sad thing, that it's not
It's very
somebody
sad.
from outside.
Right.
And even for other religious organization, unfortunately those were also where they went all the time, right? So it's not that they were going there first time. I think that is important. And also important is now with video thing, with the smartphones and so forth.
Mhm.
And these are very important. So below 18, those are I think it's very important that we pay attention to what kids are doing. And with smartphone technology, it is unfortunately those predators are using for their advantage. This is sad, but
It
that's
is sad. It
it
is
is.
sad. So hopefully this book and Delaney's story and Delaney's journey will help people to start talking about it, and not make it such a hush hush subject. But the book itself is, I would say, it's a crime novel or a thriller. I hope people have fun reading it, and I know that sounds terrible with what the topic is about, but I think that they really will fall in love with Delaney and her mission to just save the children.
Mhm, mhm. So tell us a little bit about in the end how your characters save or are saved, or what worked for them.
Well, I mean, Delaney is she's a young woman who has a past, and it talked about the book, and then she starts an organization called Children Come First, which is
Mhm,
based off of a DCS, or a Child Protective Services type organization, where she deals with children that have been sexually abused, and she works with the detectives and she works with the forensic interviewers,
mhm,
and then at home she has
mhm,
the one and the wonderful happy. So there's always a twist at the end. So I hope you'll read it, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and others will too. And again, I hope it gets people talking about the subject of child sexual abuse, and that we really do need to watch, listen, and protect our children.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for coming to our show. Sorry, we had to do a little brief because of technical issues earlier. But thank you. And for all my audience, I really encourage people to check out her book. It's a great topic. It's actually for great cause. So we should all be supportive of her and her efforts. And thank you for coming to our show. Any final thoughts you have for my audience?
I would like to point out this is an adult book. I want to make sure that they don't think that children should read this. They should not read this. So this is an adult book, and I do hope that it helps somebody. And I think that people who have been abused have told me that it helped them to feel justified, to finally feel like they have some justice, and to kind of cope and understand. So hopefully it will do good. And I really appreciate you, Dr. Moby. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you. Thank you for coming to our show. Take care.